Hello, welcome to Flux News. Today's date's the 20th of January 2015, and it's a late live broadcast for you tonight. I'm just on my own tonight, so I'm going to be sharing a few articles that I've got with me to put through tonight. So let me just sort myself out, and then I can get this shared up on the screen. I've got nobody joining me tonight, so there's going to be no comments, but if you are watching this live, then feel free to chuck a comment on board in the chat there, and I'll do my best to reply. Okay, so hopefully in a minute you should see my article appear on the screen there. I hope. There we go. Okay, this is the latest breaking news on the IS demands of $200 million a ransom for the Japan hostages. In a video posted online, the extremist group threatens to kill 2 Japanese men if they are not paid within 72 hours. Attached is a short video which I will play now for you guys. EasyJet there, sneaking in a free sponsor. Well, that's it these days. We old Sky News. Anyway, moving on.
The history of violent Islamist militants has attracted so much publicity and generated so much fear as the so-called Islamic State. Now, many scholars, particularly Islamic scholars, would argue that it is neither Islamic nor is it a state. It is much more of a sort of death cult. But what it has been able to do is harness an immense amount of energy behind its on-screen atrocities, the murder of foreigners, foreign journalists, the wholesale slaughter of Shia men and women being executed on the streets, and all of this being filmed and fed out into the community of their potential supporters around the world. And that has galvanized an immense number of foreign fighters, estimated to be at least 3,000 coming from Europe. Some 600 Britons are believed to have traveled to Syria to fight, mostly in the ranks of Islamic State. Half of them are believed to have returned, and about half of them are believed to pose, by the intelligence services in the United Kingdom, to pose some kind of threat. But they have also, this Islamic State, been able to begin to make good on their claim, albeit something of a fantasy, to be a caliphate. They've started to issue a coinage and start a banking system. They've been able to export oil, which they've used to make themselves self-funding. They also run enormous protection rackets and other extortion processes, and they have, whatever their genesis, and a lot of it was financed by individuals in the Gulf, whatever their genesis was, they are now self-funding. And that means that from the international perspective, they may pose a much longer, long-term threat.
So, first question.
Well, there you go. Islamic State has issued a video threatening to kill the 2 Japanese hostages unless the £133 million, $200 million ransom is paid within the next 72 hours. In the video, a black-clad militant brandishing a knife addresses the camera in English as he stands between 2 hostages wearing orange jumpsuits. You now have 72 hours to pressure your government into making a wise decision by paying the $200 million to save the lives of your citizens, he says. The footage, identified as being made by the militant group's Al-Furqan media arm and posted on militant websites, also sees the militant criticizing the Japanese government support for US-led airstrikes against IS. But the Japanese government has said it will not bow to extremism. Prime Minister Shinzo Abe told news conference in Jerusalem, "I strongly demand they not be harmed and that they be immediately released. I am extremely indignant at such an act." The militant who appears in the video is apparently the same man involved in the beheadings of other IS captives. You have proudly donated 100 million to kill our women and children, to destroy the homes of the Muslims. The two hostages are identified as Kenji Goto Jogo and Hirona Yukawa. In August, a Japanese citizen believed to be Mr. Yukawa, a private militant company operator, was kidnapped in Syria. Mr. Goto is a freelance journalist who went to report on Syria's civil war last year. So, just to round up on this article briefly, we've got the demand ransom from IS to free the Japanese hostages within the next 72 hours. Moving over to my next article. Facebook news feed update: hoax post tackled in change to social media website. So a lot's been happening lately with Facebook and the policies, and a lot of people have decided to call it a day with the forever free social, networking. A new Facebook update is tackling hoax posts which clog up news feeds and irritate users. The social media giant defines hoax posts as those who trick users into entering competitions or provide deliberately false or misleading news. People often share hoaxes before realizing their mistake and deleting them, according to the firm. Facebook said the update to the news feeds released today will reduce the distribution of hoaxes and misleading news stories. The 5 most common Facebook scams. Can't say I've really come across many of these, but apparently there's the 5. So if you see any of these, you'll not be seeing them for long, apparently, because Facebook want out. They're saying we're not tolerating the Facebook junk no more, as they'd like to dub it, I suppose. To reduce how frequently the posts appear, the website will take into account when many people flag a post as false, as well as when many people delete a post. Posts which are reported many times will be annotated with a message warning other people of this fact. In a post on Facebook newsroom blog, Eric Owens, a software engineer, a research scientist, explained, "We are not removing stories people report as false, and we are not reviewing content and making a determination on its accuracy. Instead, the heavily reported post will get reduced distribution in news feeds, links, photos, videos, and status updates will all be affected by the new update. The change comes after Facebook added an option for people to report a story they see on the news feeds as false, which works similarly to reported a story as spam. The vast majority of publishers on Facebook will not be impacted by this update. A small set of publishers who are frequently posting hoaxes and scams will see their distribution decrease." And that's into that article. Not really much more is added on from the article done by The Independent, but there you go. So that's the latest on the Facebook policies. Moving on. The UK rejects visa plea for 5-year-old 5-year-old's funeral. Home Office says Zimbabwean grandparents cannot attend funeral of girl hit by car despite Cameron's promise of a review. The Home Office has rejected a family's plea to allow the grandparents of a 5-year-old girl to come to Britain to attend her funeral despite a personal promise hours before by David Cameron to intervene in the case. The Zimbabwean grandparents and aunt of Andrea Garda, who died after being hit by a car just before Christmas in Eastbourne, Sussex, have been refused temporary travel visas to attend her funeral. The Immigration Minister, James Brokenshire, turned down a public offer by the family's MP to act as a personal guarantor that Andrea's relatives would return home to Zimbabwe after her funeral. The Bishop of Chichester has condemned Brokenshire's decision, telling him this cannot be right. It offends at the most elemental level of human compassion. Andrea's father, Wellington, said, ever since our beloved daughter was tragically killed, we have tried in vain to get my wife's father, mother, and sister who live in Zimbabwe to attend the funeral. This would give our remaining children and ourselves much needed comfort at this grieving moment. The Eastbourne community, including Andrea's school, Shinewater Primary, have rallied around her refugee parents, Wellington and Charity Garda, to raise more than $5,000 to enable her relatives to travel. Andrea's funeral has had to be postponed until the situation is resolved. Cameron promised he would review the case after the family's MP Stephen Lloyd raised it at a Prime Minister's Question Time last Wednesday. The Liberal Democrat MP for Eastbourne told Cameron the entry visas had been refused because the Home Office believed the relatives would abscond and offered to personally guarantee that they would return to Zimbabwe. Cameron promised to look into the case, saying it was heartbreaking when children were killed in accidents. I will certainly look at the case. I was just discussing it with the Home Secretary and make sure that the Home Office has a careful look to see what can be done. So into my next article. X-ray technique reads burn Vesuvius scroll. For the first time, words have been read from a burnt, rolled up scroll buried in Mount Vesuvius in AD 79. The scrolls of Herculaneum, the only classical library still in existence, were blasted by volcanic gas hotter than 300 degrees Celsius and are desperately fragile. Deep inside one scroll, physicists distinguish the ink from the paper using a 3D X-ray imaging technique sometimes used in breast scans. They believe that other scrolls could also be deciphered without unrolling. The work appears in the journal Nature Communications. The resort town of Herculaneum, sometimes called the Other Pompeii, was similarly buried in ash by Vesuvius. A remarkable library of scrolls was excavated from one of its villas in the 18th century. Previous efforts to read them over many centuries involved special strategies for unraveling the scrolls and as delicately as possible. Although some unrolled fragments have been read successfully, particularly in recent years with the help of infrared cameras, such unwinding efforts were eventually abandoned because of how much of the scrolls they destroyed. Pretty interesting article here. There's the X-ray image. Analysis is a painstaking job because the layers of paper are squashed and twisted. So what exactly is the results from these scans? You're probably interested to know that. This is it. Well, this is what the article has attached. Apparently, if you can see there the words or the letters APN, and here apparently it says HEY. On this one they apparently see the letters KI. So interesting to see what more comes from the burnt scroll of Vesuvius. My final article for tonight is the new £2 coin is apparently wrong. Inaccurate image of King John endorsing Magna Carta is schoolboy error, blast historian. The history buff said John King would have used a royal seal and not a quill to sign the famous Charter of Justice and Equality. It's the 800th anniversary of the Magna Carta is being marked with a fancy new £2 coin, but an expert has claimed the Royal Mint has ruined the design with a factually dodgy image. The coin shows King John signing the document, which was issued by him in 1215, and stated that everyone had the right to a fair trial and that nobody, including royalty, were above the law, with a quill. But according to Dr. Mark Morris, that notion is absurd, as the monarchy would have used a royal seal, and probably would have got one of his minions to do it. In fact, the Middle Ages expert was so incensed with the historical foolery, he even went so far as to reconstruct the momentous occasion using flammable figures. There's a close-up on the coin, the imagery there. So what's this momentous reconstruction, you might be thinking? Well, this is it. Dr. Morris, a fellow of the Royal Historical Society, said to depict King John holding a quill is simply a schoolboy error. Dr. Mark Morris used playable figures to show how the Magna Carta would have actually been signed. Mr. Bergdahl, speaking about his design for the coin, added, "I wanted to include the figures who would have been key players in the formation of the Magna Carta at Runnymede, the place in Windsor where the Magna Carta was signed. I was influenced by the art of the medieval period, which was quite uncomplicated and crude, and the ornate cornice and rose carvings echo the architecture of the era, reflecting the time the Magna Carta was created. The inscription uses medieval-style font that surrounds the design, as the inscription of King John's royal seal did in the Middle Ages." So I believe that's my final article for this evening. I did have a short video with me. I don't know if I've still got it. Let me try and find out. Yeah. No, apparently I've lost that one now. So I'll see if I can attach this short video on afterwards. But other than that, guys, thanks for tuning in to watch the Flux News. We will be back tomorrow. I think I'm being joined by Andy tomorrow, and possibly Bok as well. So do join us then and listen to some more Flux News. And if you want to be on the broadcast yourself with some articles of interest, you can do that by getting in touch with us. Contact us at the axiomcurb.org website, or send us an email at axiomcurb@live.com. But until then, guys, we'll catch you tomorrow, and take care, look after yourself, and sleep well. Thanks for watching us.